and Pratik, to discuss how Blue Meteor have utilized MarkLogic and the value that it's bringing to their business. So guys, over to you.
Yeah, hi there. So thanks everyone for joining, especially Pratik for giving us his time today. We were really interested in Blue Meteor's use case because it has a lot of features that are in an MDM solution, but might not necessarily be what people would consider a full MDM solution. And I think that's what most people are looking for when they're looking at an MDM tool. They don't necessarily need it to do 100%, but they need it to do the vast majority, and be able to customize, like Frank showed, those steps, those mastering steps along the way, to give them the right answers in a flexible and agile manner. So it was really interesting with Blue Meteor's use case. Pratik, you know Blue Meteor better than I, so do you mind introducing yourself and Blue Meteor and on what you guys do?
Sure. Thanks, Philip, and good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world, joining this meeting over here. So my name is Pratik Chakraborty. I'm the CTO at Blue Meteor, and our company, what we build is a product experience management platform. And I'll talk to you about that in a little bit, about what product experience management is and how it is very similar to the concepts of master data management, but a little different at the same time. So it's a very interesting use case, as you mentioned, and we've built this platform understanding how manufacturers, distributors, and retailers do business or have done business over decades in a brick and mortar scenario where manufacturers build products, they send to distributors and retailers, and they show up in aisles in brick and mortar stores and get sold to the final consumer. So that's the B2C aspect of it, whereas in the B2B aspect of it also, where businesses buy from other businesses, that's also, I mean, if you go back 20 years, 25 years, there was no concept of e-commerce at that time, particularly in B2B. And that's where people, the purchasing officer of a company would actually physically go to a warehouse or see a product, feel a product, and then buy it. But things have changed quite a lot. So with all that background, we came up with this whole concept of product experience management. And that's what we do. That's what we build. Our software is called Amaze, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And so just looking at your solution, what was the business challenges that you use MarkLogic and other tools within your architecture to solve for your customers?
Yeah, sure. So let me elaborate a little bit about the business problems, and that's a very pertinent question. So when you think from how products get from the manufacturer's door to the end consumer, be it a human being consumer or be it another business, there are several aspects to it. So going back to the brick and mortar example, if you take an example of let's say a grocery store or like a Target, Walmart, whatever, okay, Best Buy, those are the brands that are out there in the US. So let's say you go in and you want to buy dairy products. You know that this is the aisle where I can find my cheese and milk, etc. Now, at the same time, if you want to buy a shirt, you can be pretty certain that the shirt is not going to be there in the dairy product section. Or if you go to the apparel, men's apparel section, you are not going to be finding potatoes and onions over there. So the concept of organizing product data has been there for a very long time. That's nothing new. However, with the advent of the e-commerce industry, where people are now buying more and more online, they do not go to a physical store. They do not walk through the aisles to see which aisle has what. They need to be able to figure that out from the website, the e-commerce website itself. And that is the reason product data organization becomes very important. So that leads us to our first business problem, which is the organization and the structure of the catalog or the assortment of products that a retailer / distributor would carry. And that's what in the PXM jargon is called taxonomy structure. So what it really means is organizing the product data in a folder-like structure. For example, if you're selling shoes, could it be running shoes, soccer shoes, basketball shoes, and also it can be classified as men's shoes and women's shoes. So how do you structure that? So that and many other pieces which are like the attributions, the properties of these products. In a physical store, you go and actually can physically touch a shirt. You can see what the size is. You can feel the linen, whether it's a cotton or silk or whatever. On a website, you have to tell that to the user, that this shirt is made with 100% cotton or whatever the case might be. So the next business problem is the accuracy and completeness of the product data, which is what we call SKU, SKU, the stock keeping unit is the atomic level identifier of a product. How do you properly describe a product with all its properties and attributes? And is that description A, accurate, and B, complete? Now, a big problem, if you think about it, my favorite example is if you are the manufacturer of the best TV in the world. You build the best TV in the world, and your TV shows up in different retail websites, but the product detail page on your website is missing the size of the screen size of that TV. You will not even have a single customer, regardless of how best engineering you've done for your TV. Because as a consumer, if I want to buy a TV, I need to know what the size of the TV is. Is it a 50-inch screen or is it a 60-inch screen or whatever? So it's very important that within that data governance section, that's where the product experience comes in, that as a company that sells TVs, you ensure that the screen size is actually a required data attribute. Now, this is a very simple example. There could be much more complex examples. So that is our second business problem we solved, where the software allows people to set up these data governance rules, several different kinds of data governance rules that ensure that data is A, complete, and B, accurate. The third thing is what we call digital assets. Now, once again, given the fact that it's an e-commerce world, it's a virtual world, if you want to go and want to buy a piece of furniture, a chair, for example, you really cannot go and sit on that chair in the showroom and figure and feel how it feels. Is it comfortable? Do I have enough room? And so on. So obviously, pictures, videos are very, very important. So that the customer looking at a computer screen or a phone screen is able to get it the full, as much possible, close to the reality of sitting on that chair. So without pictures, videos, product manuals, or supporting documentation, a product is very unlikely to sell. So that's the third business problem where we solve, where the Amaze platform has a full-fledged digital asset management module, which allows you not just to load pictures and link them to different products, but it goes way beyond that in terms of ensuring that the pictures are correct and how they are, the resolution and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So lots of different things. And last but not the least, one of the biggest problems facing the industry today is the problem of data syndication. And it's very similar to what Frank was showing just a few minutes ago, where data, so think of a distributor. A distributor is getting product information from different suppliers. There may be tens or 50, hundreds of suppliers supplying data to distributors. Now, a distributor has built its own catalog structure and wants the data to come in a specific format, but all of these different suppliers might not be able to send that information in the exact format with the proper data rules, abiding by the proper data rules to the distributor. So what happens? So the distributor or the retailer has to now employ an army of people who would go through Excel spreadsheets or in many cases, and would you believe it, Access databases, Microsoft Access databases, to go and manually correct that. And when you are dealing with hundreds of thousands of products or millions of products, that becomes a humongously complex and not only a humongously complex task, but retailers take months to bring a new product into into their sales portfolio. And that is the new product introduction process becomes extremely complex and time consuming. So this is not just a problem from the distributor side, but take from the manufacturer side as well. A manufacturer is not selling just through one single channel. They are selling through tens of different distributors and retailers. Now, if that manufacturer is now tasked with sending different formats to all these different sales channels, that's a huge burden on them. They might be great at building, manufacturing ball bearings, but many of these companies don't even have a lot of IT staff or the IT capability to create an automated feed that goes and abides by the rules of each of these channels. So that's where this fourth business problem of data syndication is solved by the Amaze platform. And this is one of the places where we use MarkLogic 100% extensively to not only just help the users create those transformation rules, but to also learn from user behavior and put in that machine learning so that new customers or users are not reinventing the wheel. In fact, the recommendations, I'm going to show you some screenshots from our application that basically show what the recommendation engine that comes in. So in a sense, just to summarize, the four business problems that we are solving are the catalog structure or curation, as it's also called, data governance, which essentially means the completeness and correctness of product data, the digital asset management, which is pictures, videos, and the third one is the data syndication problem. These are the main four problems which are solving, which pretty much covers the gamut of the whole thing.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, I know because I've come from that world. It is even only a few years ago was very manual task and quite labor intensive. So I can imagine a system like this. Well, I certainly would have snapped it up back in my day because I had a team of probably 10 plus people working for me doing that. What does your system, what does it look like, and where does MarkLogic fit in within your system's sort of journey, the data journey that that information goes on? It'd be interesting to see that.
So when we, as a company, decided to build this product, the first problem we tackled was the fourth problem that I mentioned, which is the data syndication problem, because that is probably the most pressing need that we figured out. So that's where we use MarkLogic completely as the backend database with Java business layer and Angular frontend, if you're asking for the technology stack that we use. That's what we started off with, because the whole concept of transformation rules, taking a catalog, which is what we call a source catalog, and transforming that into a target catalog, is nothing but creating transformation rules. And this is where I think the power of MarkLogic and the power of a NoSQL database in particular helps us a lot, because as Frank was also showing, I was hearing Frank's presentation and seeing there's a lot of similarities. This is where, if you think about purely from an MDM concept, the concept of multiple data sources feeding in to build one single item, in this case, item being a product or a SKU, how that transformation rule, the whole concept of survivability, the whole concept of if I have multiple sources sending me the same data, how do I prioritize? It's all inbuilt, and that is where MarkLogic is used. I mean, I can just quickly share a screen where I'll just show you the basic architecture diagram that we have. It's fairly simple from a high level. As you can see, we are hosting our entire technology stack in Amazon Web Services. And we have these forests. We do not use MarkLogic collections because we wanted to get the full flexibility. So there is no concept of collections whatsoever. All these different entities and their relationships are sort of inbuilt and handled by different IDs, and the code enforces that. And that's why we have the small tree replica with the forests in AWS for MarkLogic. Now, when we installed MarkLogic several years ago in AWS did not have their native MarkLogic offering. Like, for example, if you want to set up an Oracle database on AWS, or AWS has their own Oracle specific RDS. Now, I know AWS has MarkLogic specific stuff now, but we are past we were way early than AWS to even recognize that MarkLogic fits our needs. So we host these on EC2 instances, by the way, just if for anybody who is technically oriented and wants to know about this. So this is the bridge application, which is the data syndication application.
Yeah.
The other place where we also use MarkLogic was something that we built in the recent past, which is the Amaze intelligence piece. Now, over the past several years, we have amassed a lot of catalog structures and a lot of different products, right, across different verticals. So we use that for building, I wouldn't even call it a data warehouse. It's more of a data repository and intelligence data repository. It goes through a pipeline of refinement and removing of intellectual property and everything, deduplication, de-identification of data, all of that stuff. And then it feeds into a very, very robust recommendation engine and a search engine. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but that's the other piece where MarkLogic comes into the picture very, very prominently.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you know, what's the sort of value that MarkLogic brings back to your business? Is it that agility? Is it the, you know, being able to store data as is, like you say, with large binary files included? Or are you looking now at the sort of more advanced features within MarkLogic, the powerful search capabilities and things like that to improve on what you've currently got?
Yeah, I think search capabilities is a huge thing. I mean, we use the full gamut of full text searching with stemming. We use with a thesaurus that ensures that we are storing the custom dictionaries, essentially. I mean, that's a fantastic feature of MarkLogic, which we use. Then there's also this concept of proximity boosting, where, I mean, again, I don't know how much more technical you want me to go to. Essentially, the concept of contexts. So let me give you an example of what a context means. So say, for example, you want to look at a product called shoe, right? Now, when you and I hear about the word shoe, we think of something that we wear, where our foot goes into it, right? But in an engineering, in an industrial world, a shoe could mean something else. It's a mechanical engineering term, which means that it's basically a sort of a fitting that is used in different mechanical jigs and stuff like that. So that could be a shoe. A shoe could be something that is used in farming for horses. I mean, these are things. So the same word can mean several different things based upon context.
I think that was Frank's when he was talking about the double metaphone. You know, looking at the language around the thing and different meanings and things like that. So yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
Exactly. So if a customer who is in an industrial engineering realm is searching for a shoe, what I do not want to do is show him ladies' shoes or men's dress shoes, because that is probably irrelevant for him. I mean, technically it would still be right, but logically, business perspective-wise, it means nothing to him. So similarly, if a consumer goods customer is searching for shoes, I wouldn't want to show him horse shoes or shoes for jigs, and I would want to show him the actual human being shoes. So figuring out context is very, very important in the arena of searchability and results coming out of that search. So that's where we build this context and store those within the MarkLogic database itself, so that searches are very contextual in nature. So that's a very important point in that where we use the power of MarkLogic.
You're trying to say that guys should not buy shoes for their wives, huh?
So
yes.
So where do you see the roadmap for Blue Meteor and your products, and where does MarkLogic fit in with that discussion?
See, to be absolutely honest with you, there are still several features of MarkLogic that we still do not use. And MarkLogic has a lot of different features in the advanced search capabilities, where you have these different language support, for example. That is one area where our application still needs to grow. Although we have international customers, and we are not facing the problem hugely at this point, but I'll tell you, even with our Canadian customers, there is a difference. The way color is spelled in the US versus the way color is spelled in the Queen's language is different, right?
Yeah.
So that is where it sometimes becomes a little problematic because we do not have multi-language support. That's one thing that we want to explore. Then, again, we would want to also explore the concept of snippeting, where we have certain documents in MarkLogic which are huge. We store the data as XML. We don't store it as JSON at this time. And in many cases, all we need are 2 data elements, but in many cases, we are sometimes bringing in the entire document or documents, which causes a huge problem in terms of memory usage, and sometimes the infamous expanded free cache error that we sometimes get. So there are different ways we have to tune and use the concept of snippeting, and maybe also do things in loops and stuff like that. And MarkLogic does provide those. It's quite beautiful to see what are the different aspects of MarkLogic that we do not use. And the reason why I say it's beautiful is because we know there's so much more that we can achieve. We have not reached the zenith of using the entire MarkLogic set of features, frankly speaking.
Well, Pratik, thank you very much for that. It's been really interesting to learn more about what you guys are doing, and like I say, looking forward in the future, you still think you've got a long way to go, which is really good, because like I say, these products need to adapt and change as everybody else does.